Workforce webinar, and this focus today will be on retention, and really pleased that you're able to join us. I would like to just give a brief introduction of Duane. Duane Hagen is is an educator who spans 35 years of education, all with Evergreen Catholic Schools, which is a great thing. And he has served as a teacher, administrator, associate superintendent, and now is currently the deputy superintendent, primarily responsible for HR, and of course other duties as assigned that may arise. He holds a master's degree in educational leadership and enjoys collaborating with educators at all levels. And as I've just learned this morning, across multiple school jurisdictions as well. So that's great to hear, Duane. I is married for 35 years to a teacher with Edmonton Public Schools, and they have 3 adult sons. And just learning about one of the sons who's doing some really interesting work with scholarship in the U.S. and the interesting navigation that requires, I'm sure. But welcome, Duane. I'd also like to acknowledge, and I just saw the names come across the screen. So first of all, Amanda Jackman from Alberta Education, who's here. Welcome, Amanda. She's a director with teaching and leadership excellence sector. So welcome, Amanda, as well as Kendall Tupker, a manager with that same sector, teaching and leadership excellence. So welcome to both representatives of Alberta Education. Really pleased that you're able to join us today. And I'm just going to advance slides here. Our agenda for today, I'm just working through the introductions, a land acknowledgement. I will be presenting briefly the research findings of a research study that was done a year ago with Alberta school jurisdictions. I'll go through some of that, the presentation from Duane, and then opportunity for, within that presentation, there'll be opportunity for dialogue as well as a Q&A at the end, and I'll be doing a wrap up. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for those people who have registered who were not able to be here today. We know that life in school authorities and school divisions is full, and so we understand when people have to duck in and out of this. And as well, there will be a posting of this recording as well as a learning guide that I will prepare following this session that will make this available to people who register for these webinars. The learning guides will be available to any of the cast members as well. All right, so to begin then, the land acknowledgement is just something that is important for us to acknowledge, that the College of Alberta School Superintendents is a provincial organization, and it encompasses school authorities in Alberta and in Northwest Territories. And as such, our collective work is carried out on the traditional territories, gathering grounds and meeting places and traveling routes of Treaty 6, Treaty 7, and Treaty 8 nations. We acknowledge the First Nations and Métis and Inuit peoples who have walked and lived on these lands, and we acknowledge that our past and present and future is intertwined, and together we will shape the land and what it has and what is to come. So thank you for that, and just want to make that acknowledgement. The professional practice standards that we are going to be touching today in terms of the competencies for the Superintendent Leadership Quality Standard, we are talking about modeling a commitment to professional learning and school authority operations and resources. And for the Leadership Quality Standard, the competencies revolve around that commitment to professional learning, managing school operations, and as you'll see as we go through this, understanding and responding to the larger societal context. I will be highlighting just some very selected elements of the research report that I'll be talking about. But before that, I want to highlight an article that came through Cass Connects a few weeks back, a couple of months ago, actually. And I want to also just acknowledge that some of the documents from EdCan, some of you are familiar with that, Facts on Education, highlights growing shortages of educational professionals across Canada and the globe. This was a UNESCO study, so a global study, and UNESCO projects a global shortfall of about 44 million teachers by 2030 across the globe, where nearly half of Northern First Nations report classrooms without educators. In Canada, the estimates, and these are estimates, but they suggest that up to 30% of teachers will retire or resign by 2030, and that 43% of teachers leave the profession in their first 5 years. So leadership roles and education support staff positions are becoming increasingly difficult to staff, and this adds strains to school communities. And the research points to job satisfaction as a key factor in retaining educators and emphasizing positive work environments and strong leadership support and adequate resources for managing student needs. And so I just wanted to put that external context into the mix for our consideration today. This is a study that was done globally and involved not only teachers, but educators and people like you from Cass who are responsible for ensuring that vacancies are filled within your school authority and that students' needs are being met in relation to finding the right qualified professional with specific skills for their work that they're doing in schools. Back to this particular study, the purpose of the study done a year ago was to determine and anticipate current and future K-12 teacher and school-based educational leaders workforce needs and trends throughout Alberta. And the research questions, there were two main ones. What are the current future trends, teacher workforce needs and trends in Alberta, as well as what are the recruitment and retention strategies used by school authorities to address the teaching and leadership needs? And how effective are these strategies? And some really interesting findings emerged. And today we're focusing on the recruitment side of the question. Just wanted to highlight this was a survey. It was we invited all charter francophone public school separate school authorities in Alberta to participate. We looked at the data, so we looked at the quantitative, the descriptive statistics of the survey, as well as the text-based responses that were themed and then aggregated for analysis. So what I do want to share with you is that out of the 86 authorities that we invited, 54 responded. So that's 63% responded to the survey, which was quite extensive. It took anywhere from 40 minutes to over an hour and a half for people to complete this. So it was quite a time commitment, and I certainly acknowledge and thank everyone's participation in that. But 63% of all school authorities responded. So that's a very, very high rate of return. And this also represented then 72% of the student population across Alberta. So these data give us some very helpful information because so many school authorities responded. What I will tell you is that the cross-comparison analysis of several survey questions, so we brought the information together, shows that trends from 2019 to 2023, so that's a 5-year period, indicate that it was more common for 10% or less of teachers to annually leave a school authority. So that there was, for the most part, across the province, about 10% of the teachers were leaving for whatever reason. And when we talk about school leaders, we noted that it was about the same as well. There were differences, the occasional differences in authorities where sometimes there would be a much higher rate of leaving and then followed up the following year with a much lower rate. So we recognize that this is variable across school authorities and school divisions, but when it came to teachers and school leaders, it was most common for 10% or less of the people to leave on an annual basis. The fact that it was consistent over about a 5-year period also lends credence to the fact that this is the general trend at this point. That it could change at any point is certainly true, but it was a very consistent, stable trend. The primary reasons for leaving school authorities that was gained from the qualitative data response, we put it into a large category called life change. And life change was then put into 4 sub-themes. Moving and retirement were the top 2 by far. Yes, career change and personal reasons were also included, but that moving and retirement were the by far the largest themes for reasons for leaving a school authority. I will also clarify at this point that the people who, the participants of the survey were system education leaders responsible for the staffing and addressing vacancies and shortages within schools, primarily for teachers and school leaders. So we did not talk specifically to teachers or to school leaders. This is the perception of system education leaders. Just wanted to make sure to clarify that and be clear about that limitation. When it came to recruitment strategy specifically, the participants said advertising was probably the most effective. Letting people know through career fairs, general education websites, local education, local school division websites, and so on. And that benefits, and this is very specific to bursaries and awards for those committed to staying in divisions, mileage incentives, those kinds of things. These were also common strategies that the participants felt was very helpful in the recruitment side of things. When it came to looking at school leaders, it was actually the same topics, except they were reversed. For school leaders, benefits such as opportunities for professional learning, being part of a local aspiring leadership pool, those kinds of things were seen as very effective in terms of recruitment for school leaders. And advertising, however, as you'll see in a moment, advertising was very specific. It tended to be within school division communication that was the most effective for school leaders. What was then the least effective recruitment strategy? And here you'll find something very interesting. For teachers, the least effective was advertising. So the participants said, one group of participants said advertising was the most effective, and another group of participants said advertising was least effective. And so it was both most and least effective, and we'll get into a little bit about why we think that was the case and why participants said that. And the example tended to come through was that participating in job fairs, for example, or using education career websites was very successful for some school authorities and not at all successful for or effective for others. So something else is going on here. For school leaders, advertising was also seen as least effective, and this is in relation to tending to hire leaders within their school division. There was a very strong tendency. Understand why that's the case. In some cases, very few external candidates had applied for school-based leadership positions, and so that was an interesting finding that emerged from the participants of the survey. So I'm going to fast forward to what are some of the considerations for recruitment. Most cited vacancies across the province, French language and immersion teachers, high school, math and science, secondary CTS for across multiple studies were noted. And these positions were difficult to fill due to the special educational background and knowledge required. In addition, there were some school authorities who were seeking music teachers as well as generalist teachers who can teach multiple subjects. And so there was a little bit of that search going on, and there was that need, as well as some highly specialized special education type teachers, which are very difficult or can be difficult positions to fill. It should be noted that since 2003, based on a Government of Alberta report written in 2010, there was a need at that time for CTS, math, French, and immersion and language teachers. So it's been, it seems to be a fairly persistent and consistent challenge for school authorities to find people with these particular background and skills. And specific recruitment actions, as I said, have variable effectiveness, as I've shared with you. That for some school, the notion of job or career fairs was very effective, and for others less so. So that should, I think that tells us that school authorities need to be more nuanced and targeted in the way in which they are presenting their school authorities, and you're going to hear about that shortly. The impact, it should also be noted that as challenging as it is to fill vacancies that emerge through natural, retirement or people moving, that sort of thing, or reassignments within school divisions, filling those vacancies is just an ongoing natural part of the work of school authorities. It becomes a challenge when you have a position for which you cannot fill because of specialized skills or knowledge that is required. And that has an impact not only then on, finding that a teacher or a school leader and placing them into that assignment. It has an impact on students as well, that some of their programming may in fact be limited because we don't have the right qualified or the teachers with the appropriate background to help them be successful or be in their studies. So that's very much just an overview of some of the findings that are available on the CAS website. There's an executive summary, which is much shorter and condensed with some of these findings as well. At this point, I'm going to just stop and hand it over to Duane, who's going to be talking about the Evergreen Catholic Separate School Division and their experience. Duane, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Edgar. I have to say that your findings are very relevant, and I think that anybody that's online or that's going to watch it earlier can concur with a lot of your findings. I appreciate that I get to tell my story, and I can honestly say that my story won't be much different than other stories I feel across the province. And a lot of the things I'll say, we gather as a CAST community, and we're able to share ideas and stories. So what you hear in my story is going to be, similar to others, but by no means is Evergreen story the right story or the only story. Just to give you a bit of a background, we have about 4,400 students and overall 443 employees, and then about 247 certified staff within 10 schools. We have a unique situation within Evergreen because we are close to Edmonton with Spruce Grove, Stoney, and Devon, and then we also have some rural areas in Westlock and Hinton. So we get a little bit of both sides of the coin of what it's like to find teachers and positions for rural areas as well as for some urban areas. I think that it's important to understand that we all are, I guess, not struggling, but need to look at ways how we're recruiting. And Edgar gave me 3 questions to sort of set this presentation up, and I looked at it as a lens of system leaders. What can we do differently? What are some unique things that you can try to do to see if you can get more applicants? So I'll just continue on, and I believe we've got some time to break out rooms, or we're going to do it together here for some questions throughout. So we will stop a little bit after, and I can hear some questions, and we can have some dialogue. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the question that was given to me as a system leader. What recruitment challenges, it's just coming a little slow here. Let me just try here again. Are you addressing? So the main thing for my perspective as an HR, and I know if other HR system leaders are online here, for me, it was in basically teacher recruitment and the lack of applicants in certain positions, especially some of the specialized positions that Edgar mentioned. And then secondly, the competition from all the other divisions that are currently in the same situation we are. So there's multiple divisions that are looking for similar positions. So that's also a challenge. So we're really finding a significant issue retaining and recruiting teachers, especially in our rural areas and northern areas, and we're struggling to fill vacant positions, in some cases relying on non-certified classroom supervisors. Again, the other thing I would say is it's not a matter of that we're not even finding, we're just not getting the same number of applicants that we once used to get for positions. And Edgar said that can have a significant impact on student learning, and it does. Filling specialized teaching positions such as those requiring specific skills or certification is really particularly challenging at this point. And then the rising competition from other divisions and the lack of teachers make it difficult to attract and retain teachers. So that's sort of the challenges that we're trying to address. And I'd like to just sort of say that my team and I, looked at this as, how do we get more applicants? That's the question we were trying to address. And the problem is that we found, based on our history, that we needed to expand our presence within the local area and beyond. And how do we share our story of culture, vision, and mission? In my experience in our career fairs, when we go, a lot of our candidates didn't know who we were as a school division. And that was significant for us because if they don't know who we are and what our story and our culture or our vision or our mission is, they're probably not going to apply for our division. So that was one of the things that we needed to really address. We felt before we go out through abroad and even further into Canada, we needed to do a better job within Alberta to tell our story. So the solution that we came up with was, how do we change and improve our current recruitment strategy so that we can reach more candidates? And as you see on the next slide, we needed to reach the right talent. And in order to do that, we felt our plan needed to cast a wider net. And that was the sort of the issue that we wanted to really dive into. And we felt that in order to do that, we needed to look at some of the things we're doing, change them, and then also look at some new ideas that we gathered through many sharing of stories from other divisions through CAS and other organizations. I can tell you that some of the things we're trying were not our team's inventions. They were kind of a culmination of some of the things that we heard throughout other presentations from other boards. And it's really important that we have a great network to really tap into. So I guess the next question that Edgar was asking was, or what he said is, a system leader, what did you do? And what we tried to do was our team tried to use purposeful and intentional a system to address that problem. So we use what we call the 4E cycle. So that entailed that, first of all, we needed to build a knowledge and really understand the problem that we were trying to solve. And by say building a knowledge is we needed to find out what are some of the things other divisions are doing. Is any of those strategies going to help define the problem and solve our problem that we have in Evergreen? And then the next stage is we needed to start experimenting and thinking about, okay, how are we going to plan this? What are some low risk ideas? And then we narrowed the ideas so that we knew which ones we wanted to implement. And it was very important to understand that. I'm just going to say that I think, whoops, I'm going to go back. And then the next phase was to expand and implement process. And then we use what we called a rapid action plan to initiate a lot of our ideas. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. I felt that we can't just put all these ideas and have no plan to move forward. And then the last stage that we feel that we're in right now is still in bed. And that means we got to evaluate, what are we going to continue? What are we going to not do? And what processes are we going to use moving forward? By no means we feel that we're there yet. And this is a growing recruitment, and things are changing rapidly. So we need to change as well. We did find some things that worked really well. We found some things that we won't do again. And that's part of that process. Okay, so the next slide that we're seeing here is our expand phase. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we did in order to expand what we were doing currently, look at changing what we were doing currently, and as well, what are some new ideas and strategies that we can implement. And then what we tried to say is that we were looking for ideas that had low risk, but have a high impact or high impact strategies. So as a team, once we got to that, embed and expand, these are some of the things that the nuts and bolts that we did that we had changed or we did differently. Again, as Edgar said in his presentation, some things are going to work for your division, some things are going to work for our division. These are just some of the things that we thought we would try to see if we could get more applicants, as I mentioned. So the first one was new teacher, promote first-year teachers on social media, positive messaging. One of the things that we have done in the last 2 years is we actually hired a communication part-time person that helped us expand our social media footprint. We found even locally in our own area that a lot of new people that have moved into the area didn't know a lot about Evergreen. So we felt that that was a really big step for us. Since then, we've been able to use our communication person to really promote social media and positive messaging. And we went in a direction where we wanted to talk about joyful moments about working in Evergreen. We purposely planned that because we feel that right now there was a lot of negative reasons to be a teacher. There's a lot of things that were happening with the current recommendation for the new ATA contract. And we felt that we needed to provide a positive message, and to also that positive message could also say, hey, I'd like to work at Evergreen because of these joyful moments that we shared on social media. The second thing we started to do is something we called the teacher ambassador for new teachers. We actually have a little system where if you have somebody in the family that you introduce to Evergreen, we do an interview. We buy them a card. We gave them gift cards for promoting our division, and those are current teachers within our division, and it's really popular. It's just a thank you for really telling our story to other people that we may not be reaching, and they're living in our division. They're better to tell the story than anybody. Another new thing that we did this year was a virtual open house. We had a couple different dates where we offered a virtual house where people could come online wherever they were. And we felt that when we went to career fairs, you get about 2 minutes per person to talk and tell your story, and that's it. They move to the next booth. And then they get probably 20 to 30 booths, and they got a lot of information coming, and they don't remember our story. So we created a card with our QR code on it, and then we provided virtual open houses on 2 different nights at 4 and 7. We had probably up to about 40 people that came. And we were actually, when we started that process, we felt it was going to be for new recruits. But what we ended up finding is we were getting people from Calgary, from other areas of the province that were planning on moving. And we didn't even know that it would expand in that sort of realm. So we were really quite happy with our virtual open house. It was a really low risk. It was just your time. It was advertising through social media, giving out QR codes at the career fair. And it was an opportunity to even build relationships further from the career fair. So it was a very well something that we're going to continue to do. Another, I talked a little bit about our formal referral process, and we did touch on that already. Something we knew that was going to help us was also, instead of having individual schools post positions, we tried to simultaneously post multiple positions. So we attract a bigger group that were applying. And once we found that they applied, we could talk to them about, well, maybe this position would work for you rather than just having our schools do it independently and they didn't get that job, so that it would still build a relationship and continue on about a dialogue about the possibility of, hey, are you interested in this position if that one was going to be there when it's singular? So we found that very effective. As I mentioned, we hired our communications person. So we really expanded various social media platforms. We actually, if you're listening to certain radio stations, we have a radio ad, which we've never done before. I'm not sure if this will work in here, but if it does, can I play that, Edgar? Do you know if it works?
It's game time at Evergreen Catholic Schools. We're drafting passionate players for our all-star team. Teachers, EAs, and support staff ready to lead with heart and faith. Want purpose on your roster? Lace up and head to ecsrd.ca.
All right, thank you. That's just an example of something that we're trying, and we felt. I'll just go back one more there. I'll try. There we go. Something new, and we felt that the hockey theme would go really well at this point in time. It could either, if the Oilers were still in, we'd be happy to play it. We were a little worried if the Oilers were out. I don't know how that'd go, but it was just another strategy we felt that we could try to, really throw that net out there and just hear about Evergreen and that name Evergreen. We also really had to look at improving our Indeed page, so that if we know a lot of people are still using that format, so that was something clear that we did. We expanded our early hiring process. That's something new for us. We really purposefully tried to get applicants applying earlier. In that conversation, I did a lot of interviews from our career fairs and from our database, and really tried to say, hey, we've got some applicants or some positions open. We can sign you sooner than waiting until when we used to at the end of May. So that's been very successful for us. And so one of the things that you needed to do is we had to have our evaluations or discussions with existing positions and decisions made earlier. So we really had to work with our whole administrative team for that to work, and really have those conversations with teachers that were on probes and what positions were available. And of course, it's always tied to budget. So we had to make sure that we all were on the same page moving forward to be able to do that. One of the things that we also really need to look at is improving our swag, our presentation table, At career fairs, we felt that, with that as well, we really changed the look of our career fairs. I brought intentionally our team that was made up of my HR coordinator so that she could actually get some emails and we could build a database of a number of people that were looking for positions. One of the things that I would suggest is that we also had a little bit of a prize giveaway at our table. And in order to put your name in for the draw, you had to put your email address. And we talked to them saying, hey, would you be interested in us contacting you? Here's an opportunity to win a prize. And we'd leave that prize there, which was really popular. We also brought a first year teacher to our career fairs. And it was somebody that was new to Evergreen. And she was able to tell the story of what her experience was like as a first year teacher. And that was very popular because they would, have conversations with somebody that was living in Evergreen and that just graduated and was in a first year position. So very, very purposeful change in the way we did our career fair. And then bringing my coordinator, we could sign up and give out applicants while I still could talk to students. So very different career fair path that we took this year in a very purposeful way. I know Edgar mentioned career fairs can be different for different divisions, and I feel that for us, it was giving us a database to build. A lot of students understand that you can apply to education, but when we have a database that we could send also all of our jobs right to that database, so in case they weren't checking Alberta or apply to education, they saw those applicants or those positions directly to them. And again, it expanded our conversation and our relationship building with those people that we met. And then the other thing that I'm not sure you can see on there, but there it is. I did a college presentation, and in that college presentation, it was with fourth or second year students or fourth year at Concordia, and I did a interview with on tips and tricks for an HR perspective. If you can get into the collegiate schools and do any type of free presentations, there's a lot of merit to that. I made a lot of connections, and when I see them at the job fair, they would come up and say, hey, you did a presentation for us. I remember, and I've got some questions. And again, it's all about building that rapport and that relationship with students that you're trying to recruit. So those are some of the things that we did this year that were completely different. And again, next year, we'll be looking at new strategies. We'll be looking at some of the things I mentioned that we may not continue to do. But that's just a little bit of some of the things that we've done this year as a change. And I believe the next slide is we're going to open it up for some questions, Edgar, and to, what come to mind about something that you heard or the presentation so far. And then after that conversation, I'm going to break down a little bit about how we did this as a system.
Great, thanks. Thanks very much, Duane. And so what questions come to mind as you think about the presentation so far? There are a couple of ways. We're going to just actually go into our breakout rooms. You've been randomly assigned to a breakout room. We're going to give you 5 minutes to raise any questions or have any things that come forward, and then we're going to come back and just have a bigger conversation. So at this point in time, I'd like we're going to just break out. The last
Edgar,
person,
do we want to have somebody in the breakout session sort of be a recorder, or
yeah.
Are we just going to, I'm not sure what that process is. Would you like to use?
Yes. So the last person in will become the spokesperson for the group to bring forward these questions. Okay. So the last person into the group. That doesn't include me or Duane at this point. And so we will just leave it at that. And we'll give you about 5 minutes and we'll come back and have that conversation. So we're going to begin now, and you'll be assigned to one of 2 breakout rooms. So we'll start now. So Duane, over to you, and we'll continue with the presentation.
So the next step in this is we needed to look at a system of who's doing what and how we're going to accomplish all of our new ideas. So this is sort of still expanding, and we continued that process. So what we did as an HR team is we created what we call a rapid action plan. And I know it's small, but this is just a snippet to give you an idea of how we sort of went about our roles. I mentioned that I've got a small team. There's myself. I have an HR coordinator, and then I also have a substitute coordinator, and then a secretary that also does some things for HR. So we're a very small team, but we call ourselves the BTE team, and we say BTE because it's the best team ever. And again, it's all about that positive messaging that we can create a plan of action and then carry it out. So in this rapid action plan, and I'm going to tell you, when I introduced this rapid action plan, it wasn't well received at first because it was something new, but as we sort of worked through it, it's the way we now run all of our meetings. So we meet twice a week with our BTE team, and we go through our rapid action plan, and it really drives our meeting now. So for example, and you can't see it, so on the left-hand side, starting there, we have what we call our tasks. Who's doing, or what are we trying to do? And then individuals that's going to look at doing that. What's our timeline for when we're going to start having these things completed? What resources are we going to need to implement it? What are the steps we're going to need? And where are we at a status with those new things that we're doing within our recruitment? And then, as I mentioned, we're using this sort of skeleton rapid action plan for everything that we're doing within HR, because it gives us direction. We can all follow it, and it really has a systematic approach to knowing who's doing what, how are we going to get this accomplished, because in a small team, you've got to do a lot of things together. And so this is a small snippet. We have about 6 pages of spreadsheets on our rapid action plan. And this is just an example of, how we decided to move forward with these ideas. And every system might have a different way, but I thought I would share that with you because it really works for us to keep efficient. It keeps our meetings really focused, and it really helps moving forward with our ideas. All right, the next slide. I wanted to give you a little bit of, some of the things that I talked about. I start with where do you find joy? These were the joyful moments that we said that we put in social media. This other snippet was out of on the left side with our table with our new swag and our new things that we've done. And then also it talks in again from our newsletter. We want to acknowledge our staff members who have successfully referred new hires to join our division. If you have recommended someone who has secured a position with us, please reach out and share their name. And then through that process, as I mentioned, we use the newsletter to really expand on help of our division. And if you look really closely, you can see, I took this one out of our contest. You'll see little babies of Jesus hidden in there for part of our contest for our winners and our HR. So you can have a lot of fun with your newsletter. Down below, you'll see the QR code. We developed a larger size postcard that we could hand out with QR code to talk about how to get to our pages, is also how to get to our online virtual open houses. And again, there's a QR code about we're hiring, and again, sending that message out through social media. So the last question that Edgar wanted to ask during the presentation when I put this together was, how do you know it worked? How did it work as a system leader? And I think for us, I answered it in a few different ways. The first one is the increased number of sub-interviews. So I can honestly say that from last year to this year with the new things that we've tried, I've increased from about 20 interviews to over 50 interviews in the month of May, which is incredible. It's almost 100% more interviews that I've had earlier in this process. So, and I'm a smaller division, so I do all the interviews. So I give everybody time. We book it. I give them a half hour. We go through the interview. For me, it's about building that relationship. It's not just an interview. It's important to let them ask questions about our division. And then generally, they're there to sign up for subbing as well as soon as they can. Or I talk about postings and positions. The next one was an increased number of applicants for job postings. So that's a great indicator. I can currently say that in some of the postings, we've had 18 to 20 applicants. And before we started last year, we were getting 4 or 5. So again, is it because of all these things? I really don't know. I can only use the data that I have, but I can say that we have got a way better applicants for postings. I can say, however, for some of our specialized positions, we are still not getting the same increase. And again, because they're so specialized, I'm not sure, what we need to do with that. But overall, very successful so far. I mentioned that we tried to do some early hiring, and I can actually say that, we've hired 7, applicants, which last year we wouldn't have hired at this point in time. And I'm happy to say that we had 3 hires in one of our rural areas. And last year we didn't even get an applicant. So this year we've actually hired 3 already for a rural area where last year there was nothing. So we had to figure out how we're going to change the timetable to accommodate that. So that to me was a win. I mentioned early hiring already in our rural areas. I really feel that we've done a really good job in relationship building with our new recruits database. We often send out messages to them just to connect with them. Hey, how's it going? Have you found any positions? Are you still looking? Are you still interested in Evergreen? We get a lot of people say, hey, we really like the process. Thank you for getting in touch. And I accepted a position at Division X, and we always follow up. Well, congratulations. We look forward to seeing how you're doing. Thank you for your interest. So having that dialogue and having that continued relationship building, because I'm not sure they're going to stay there. And like somebody mentioned, Steve, sometimes their probe doesn't work and they still have that connection with us. So really important to build that. And that's because of that, what we've changed and how we build our database. We had a lot of great feedback from applicants using our virtual open house. People that said, I never even knew that you existed and have actually applied. And I'm happy to say that we actually hired 2 people from our virtual open house, which we wouldn't have probably known that they were interested in Evergreen. And it's worked out that, one was actually to our rural area, and the second one was somebody in Spruce Grove. And they only connected to Evergreen through our open house, our virtual open house. So that was a win as well. And of course, when we're interviewing and hiring, we always ask the question, how did you hear about Evergreen? Because that's another way to gather data. And, I'll get all different things. And now I saw you at the career fair. You were at a presentation. I was at your open house. And that's great data to be able to check to see what's working and if we're going to continue that process. So I guess, Edgar, this is just a question that they don't have to answer now, because I believe, some of the things on the next page. I think maybe if we want to open it up, instead of going in a breakout room, if you're okay, we can have that dialogue. But the question that I said, how can you change and improve your current recruitment strategies? What are some of the things that you can do and think about moving forward? Because it's obviously ever changing, that based on the information that Edgar told about the number of people changing careers for different reasons and retirements. The question is, how are you going to change or improve your current recruitment strategies? And then I kind of thought about some of the things that we did. We talked about some diverse strategies that we're trying. What are some effective recruitment targeted programs that you can enhance? And what is going to be your future focus? So, for long-term success in teacher recruitment. Those are just things to really think about as a division moving forward. And then on the next page, I believe that maybe we can open it up for a few questions, if that's okay, if we got a bit of time, Edgar, and then we can let you wrap up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so the questions that I have is just, I think it's really important to share some things that you heard, and then also what are some of the things that you're doing so we can also learn from each other. So the first question is, please share some current recruitment strategies you're finding most effective in your division. So I'll just open up the floor, and if somebody would like to sort of say, hey, we're doing this and it's really effective, I'd love to hear from you as well.
And if I might, it would be, yes, if there's things that you've already heard that you're doing, great. If there's something different or a nuance of something that was presented, it would be great to hear about that as well. So I'll just open the floor. Okay,
I can share.
Sure.
Again, this is me stepping into this role of, I think, 7-ish months. But one of the things that we are doing, like, I really love the idea of building that communication with anyone that's interested in having a QR code to just keep that going. Because right now I'm just going off of post-secondaries. And that also, depending on how they share information, is out of my control. So that's a really big takeaway for me. But one of the things we've created a business card. So instead of having my personal name on it, we have a recruitment inbox. So then we hand out those cards at our career fairs, and anything that they would like, the QR code to the careers for the posting, but also the email. It'll take them there. And we've been able to meet with our consultant team and bring them into, like, everyone's a recruiter. And so handing out these cards to any because they will be invited to do different types of PD at post-secondary. So using them as a kind of an extension for recruitment, because we're all recruiters, and also presenting that message to our principals and assistant principals too, like, we are all in this. We can recruit them at the door with HR, but then it's in your hands. So we're trying to also build that similar message that everyone's doing.
Thank you, Stephanie. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks very much.
So along the same lines of, like, who we are, this year we developed some videos that are our staff. And so we really aligned it to our priorities in our education plan. And when we get to the belonging and the wellness piece, it was really talking about how we support staff wellness, how we support professional learning in these different areas, and then had our staff, instructional and non-instructional, talking to that. So we did a series of 5 videos that we can use on social media and have on our website, because same thing, it's how do we tell our story of who we are, but really targeting professionals, because a lot of our social media is really about the teaching and learning and what's happening for our students in schools. So we made that shift this year, was an important thing. And then another thing, recruiting this year, that I found helped talking to people about, especially when we were in Edmonton and Calgary, was like cost of living and price of housing. That's one of the things in the north that we have a little bit of an edge over, is new grads were like, what, you can buy a house for that much money? And that was a surprise to them. So for some of the rural pieces and stuff, that was a bit of a different shift in the questions that they were asking compared to previous career fairs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Well, if you could continue on to your questions, other questions, Duane, we'll open it up and give a couple more minutes for wider dialogue.
Absolutely. So the next question below is one of the things that I described, and I think it's probably similar, but what is the biggest challenge that you are facing in recruitment? And I know that it's probably the same and similar, but if you have something else to input, I would love to hear that as well. And even if it's a free affirming that you're finding the same. So
our list is the same, but knowing that we have Alberta education people on the call, for the CTS area, we've been really strategic about the bridging program and getting individuals into that bridging program, and that's really helped us with our high school. So 2 pieces to that. when it was the $50,000 grant that went to those students, we had people that said, yeah, we can make that work to go back to school. Now that that's been cut in half, that's harder. So as a division, we're actually matching that so that you can say to somebody from industry, here's something to help you. So you take that time off to go back to the U of A to do that. So we've had to kind of make that piece up so that we can still get individuals to do that bridging program. And then also looking at that bridging program so that they can teach CTS at the junior high level as well as the senior high level. Because if we want to build that senior high program, we need our junior high students with quality instructors, not just teachers that say, okay, I'll give it a try and do something in the shop with the students. So if those CTS bridging students can still just teach in their area, but also at that 7, 8, 9 level instead of just the 10 to 12 level.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
I have a question, and this could be, you can tell me that this is not the platform to do it. But we have had teachers from out of country come to us with the Alberta assessment to then share what they have to complete in order to get their interim certification. But then as a school division, we can, if we would like, provide that LOA. And so this was just, I'm wondering what other school divisions do, because again, that's recruitment. They're already working as educational assistants because you don't need that teacher certification. But then it's more, okay, so you are having that experience as an educational assistant. Do we take that risk to write an LOA? And have them teach in our schools, or if they're successful in the interview on our sub roster, that piece of it. I'm just wondering if there's others that have that experience, because in my time, I mean, 7 months, and I've had 4 reach out. And so I'm kind of just waiting. I haven't really committed yet, but also knowing that they also have a timeline that they have to try to get this LOA.
Well, I can say that I don't have the same experience at this point, Stephanie. It's a great question that, you know, I think we need further comment and investigation on. I don't have an answer for you. We haven't really got into LOAs yet as far as that. So unless somebody else has experience, I don't.
Yeah. I'll just say that this is very much an opportunity for school authorities and post-secondary institutions to have that conversation, because a letter of authority it is important, and it's I think it's growing in importance in terms of providing for vacancies that emerge within school authorities, especially some of the specialized ones, perhaps, I mean, not exclusively, but that working with post-secondaries is a critical part of that, because there will often be some requirements, course-based requirements or student teaching requirements, those kinds of things that may come into play. So I think that is an emerging question that came out of that wasn't necessarily addressed through the survey, the research that we were conducting, but it is an emerging question and an important one. We'll need to come back to this one in some way. Thanks, Stephanie.
Well, one of the things, Edgar, just to, you know, continue a little bit of that conversation is I know that we're not only short for teaching positions for permanent positions, but also for substitute positions. Every division I know is lacking the number of substitute. My question that maybe again can have further dialogue later on a different venue is, are we able to do something where you know, we can have some of those you know, teachers from other countries fill in a substitute role and doing a different type of certification, or to get them at least into the school subbing, and based on their experience from their countries, that they were a teacher, maybe not in a permanent position as a teacher, but I know that it's going to involve the ATA, but in a different way to allow the number of lack of subs to really look at, what can we do to at least get them from an EA classroom into a substitute role as well. And perhaps that's something to think about. So, and I know it's going to bring in a lot of conversations with, having that permanent, certificate. But, let's be honest, we know that some divisions are using supervisors within their schools to have somebody in place in a classroom in a rural area. So they can't teach any curriculum. They can't mark any curriculum, but their supervisors, the principal or the admin, would start the class and then they're supervising. So we're sort of going in that direction. Is there something else that can be done?
Very important question, and I think again, I'm glad that we have Alberta education representatives here, but I think this is an important dialogue. It does go outside of the scope, although we see the scope of this webinar, but we see this as an important kind of question, and I think I know that. Or I believe that Cass is very interested in this, and I think that this is an ongoing dialogue with Alberta Education, post-secondaries, and so on. And I think I don't know if it's in terms of, it might be short-term solution or might be a more long-term solution, but the notion of letters of authority and certification, certainly that's the purview of Alberta Education, and and that's where some of the conversation needs to take place as well. But thanks. I am going to, sorry to push us through. We made a commitment to end at 11:30, and so if there's anything else or other issues that or questions that emerge, we have Duane's contact information in the slides. I'm certainly available, and you can certainly follow up with me. I'm very happy to be talking about this or bringing this forward. So thanks very much. Just in terms of wrap up, there are some considerations for action for each of you. So, those questions that Duane asked, what are your recruitment challenges and what are you trying to address? What actions have you taken and how do you know your actions are making a difference? So that notion of thinking about measurement, even as you're going through as you're starting this, how would you know this is making a difference? And I'm so pleased that Duane was able to share a lot of that information with us in going forward. And so certainly this is an invitation for participants in the webinar to identify strategies and tactics you heard today that you think will make a difference in your school authority. What might those be? And what adaptations would you want to carry out, or have you carried out? We hope that this has been really helpful for you. I did want to address that notion of emerging themes that have come that were not part of the research, but are certainly emerging in dialogue with school authorities. One was the notion of working effectively with letters of authority. How do we do that? That was raised early here, as well as that notion of growing your own strategy. Did not come forward as clearly in the research, but also was seen to be an important one. A long-term strategy, because that's a long-term commitment that has to be made by school authorities, but seems to have some value and impact going forward. Our next webinar is May 28th. It starts at from 1 to 2:30, and it is focusing on the retention of teachers. Specifically, and I'm really pleased that Kimberly Carson from Aspen View Public Schools will be presenting what they're doing in relation to the retention of teachers. Again, a rural school authority with some unique challenges and some unique approaches that will be coming forward. So I do invite you to continue the webinar series and join us next week. Registration for these are on the CAS website, as you know, and I want to thank you very much for participating. If there are any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact me or Duane, and this will be available in the coming weeks on the CAS website, and as well as a learning guide which summarizes some of the things we've heard today, and some further questions for school authorities as we go forward. So thanks very much for participating, and we really appreciate your being here today. Have a great day. Thanks very much.